Welcome back, guys. Well, yes, September is cabin and off-grid month on the channel. So each week will be videos about the cabin and topics related to off-grid living. Don't forget to turn your notifications on so you don't miss an episode. Today's video is all about a cautionary tale about buying land for off-grid living, how not to get screwed. So I was on my way to the cabin and I happened to see that a neighboring property was for sale. I got really excited, headed back to the cabin and contacted the realtor. The realtor advised me to check online and take a look at the listing, and I did. It looked really exciting. The photos were amazing, lots of forest, water access, a lot more water access than we have now. So you can imagine I was pumped. Taxes were also quite low, but the disappointing thing was the price was really high. I couldn't believe it. Way more than we paid for, the large 170-acre parcel that we have here. So I contacted the realtor again and got permission to walk the property. I wanted to see what's this place all about. He also let me know to take a look at the property boundaries on the local geographical information system and also to take a look at the survey he attached to the email. So I took a look at the survey data and went on the GIS, and I noticed right away that the property was zoned mainly aggregate. Well, that was a surprise. I didn't see that in the photographs. So I headed on over to check out the land, and boy, was I disappointed. Turns out the property, true enough, was very much an aggregate property. The soil was mostly sand and lots of big boulders on the property. The forest was there, but not as diverse as we have here at the cabin with here we have many different forest types, including a cedar swamp, high maple ridges, as well as, some really thick bush with balsam fir and spruce. So this was a very, not a very diverse property, a lot of aggregate. Thought, oh boy, if I wanted to, set up some crops or do some farming or whatever, I wouldn't be able to do it here, that's for sure. And checked out the waterfront. And yeah, there's a lot of waterfront there, but I found out, and I know from experience from this property, any water that touches a power generation river or water source is actually owned by the Ontario Power Generation, at least several feet up on the shoreline. So it turned out that the part of the waterfront of this property wasn't actually owned by the individual who was selling the property. It was leased from the Ontario Power Generation Group. Also walking the property, I was a bit disappointed. There was a ton of garbage there. I'm not talking beer bottles and cans. I'm talking about trailers and huge railroad ties and an old dilapidated shed and outhouse. Those things would have to be removed. There was also tires, things like that. So I was really disappointed going on the property. The realtor did not choose to show photos of that on the website. Turns out there was actually also a very small area that you could actually build a house that was zoned for residential. So you couldn't just put your house or cabin anywhere on the property. I also did some digging and found out what the property is actually worth. Turns out my hunch was right. The taxes were low because the property is actually valued at 6 times lower than the asking price, which didn't really surprise me. Knowing the prices for this area and this region was instrumental. Also knowing about what the taxation rate is for the area is really important. The realtor and the owner were asking 6 times more than the property was actually worth. So you can imagine my disappointment. I had to walk away from this sale. Didn't even want to make an offer. It just wasn't worth it to me. Let's discuss some tips and tricks to help you when you're purchasing off-grid property so you don't get screwed. Do your research. Contact the realtors, see what information they can provide to you, and get as much information as possible from them. Get permission to walk the land. Really important to do that. If you're able to do so, do it in a couple of different seasons, just so you may find out that you have a swamp in early spring or in the floodplain. If the realtor doesn't walk the property with you, that might be an alarm bell. They may not be familiar with the area, they may not be comfortable in that area, so make sure that you get your hikers on, grab some water in a backpack, and get on out there and see what's on the land. Don't be shy. Find out if the taxes for the property value makes sense. So when I went online to look at the realty listing, the taxes were really, really low compared to what the asking price was. Turns out I did a bit more digging and found out what the property was actually worth, and the offering price was 6 times what the property was actually worth. So don't forget to look into that. That should always get your back up when you see something like that online. Find out if there's geographical information system data for, the township or in the state. You want to find out what's around the area. Is there a quarry in the area? What is your area zoned as? Are there environmental protections on the property that would, forbid you from doing logging or, building? You want to know what's going on before you get into it and make a big purchase. If your property has waterfront, be sure to make sure that you know, do you have rights to that waterfront? Is there deeded access, or does another corporation actually own it and have rights to it, and you lease it from them while you own the property? Really important in this situation, because I wouldn't have been able to build my dream home on the water, as the Ontario Power Generation actually has the frontage on the river and can fluctuate the water levels, so that would make building impossible in that region. If you find something on the land that you don't like when you do your walk around, can you deal with it? For me, that garbage was an absolute no-go. It wasn't just like a few little bits of beer bottles or things like that. It was tires, it was, trailers, it was old railroad ties, it was dilapidated old buildings that had to come down. I can't afford to clean that up, nor do I have the time or want to do that. So when you do that, make a list of yourself of things that you see. Maybe that's a negotiation thing in the price, that they have to remove that prior to purchase, but I really didn't want to get into that. I don't think people would want to do that for the selling price. So unfortunately, I had to walk away. So be sure to make a list of things you don't like and approach the seller with that if you're negotiating the price. Remember, when you find out about the zoning of the area, is that compatible with what your land use is all about? If you wanted to have a quarry, this aggregate property might have been perfect. However, if you wanted to have a farm, grow some crops, put up a farmhouse, now this property is not going to be it for you. So make sure ahead of time you know what you're looking for, so that when you find out this information, you can decide whether you want to make an offer on the property or not. Find out if there are also any environmental protections on the property. I mean, it can be a real asset to have a property like that, but if you want to do some logging, you won't be able to do so because there are certain protections in place. Also important to consider would be road access. There's a few properties I looked at in the past that you had to traverse over numerous folks' property to get to your own. You don't know, they could sell, they could somehow make it your own property inaccessible to you. So be sure that you have good road access and that it's legal road access. You don't want to run into problems in the future. Well, I hope my cautionary tale helps somebody out there. I don't want anybody to get into a situation they don't want to be in, especially when we're talking a lot of money here. And, I know a lot of people would love off-grid property, just to have a little piece of nature to hang out in. So don't get screwed over. Make sure you follow my recommendations, and hopefully that will help you in terms of your new purchase. If you have any other tips or tricks or cautionary tales of things that happened to you when purchasing off-grid property, put them down below in the comments. We'd love to hear your stories and learn from everybody's experiences. Remember to turn notifications on this month. Every week I'm going to have a topic related to cabin life, off-grid living. At the end of the series, I'll do a video with your questions and answer some of them. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. As always, take care.